Hello. Um, I'm sitting here at my computer writing about what it is to be in the TLC, how people join, um, what these processes are, and specifically delineating the process of going live, what that is and what that means. And that inspired me to go live to see what's going on, who's who, what's what. Um, so if someone joins me and gives me some thoughts on that, that's cool. But if not, I'll just say what I've been thinking lately. Is I this morning I listened to, or maybe it was yesterday, I don't know, some point recently, I listened to PVK and Scott Skojek, and it won't. I don't think it will surprise people that I didn't really know who that was. Hi, Grim Grizz. Um, and so I don't know, I was really kind of impressed, a little bit, like, I don't know, moved by the parts of the interview that I, saw. I didn't see the whole conversation, and, oh, hey, what's going on? Um, and so, I don't know, just really found myself, and so there's some things that, like, "Oh, this is why I'm here," just sort of listening to what PVK was saying about the TLC, I found to be just really kind of impressive and cool. He was saying, well, I won't quote it. I'll just say he started saying something like, "All these people, not all these people, but a lot of these folks, they started out as a little bit shaggy," I think he said, and then they transformed, and he started giving all of this evidence and all these ways that people had transformed, and I was like, "Yes, the transformation, right? That's what I see." Um, and then listening to this interview, Steve's interview, um, I don't know. I like to see these kind of stories. And he said, I've just heard him say a lot of things that I've heard other people say. I mean, he's a writer, so just in a very poignant, direct kind of way. Um, and so that's something I've been thinking about. But really, today, I'm looking at this micro process of like, what is it to go live? So I don't know, man. I just sat behind my computer, turned on the screen, hooked at the microphone, and here we go. Um, but PVK was saying, and I think this is true, that many people said this many times. There's the developing of the liturgy of, okay. He used Chad as an example. Chad will sit behind his computer screen. No, Chad has a phone. I've heard Chad has a phone to do these. So he'll be picking his guitar strings, singing a song. I haven't heard from Chad in a little bit. I hope he's doing okay. Um, and then other people will join. He just has to drop the link. And so, like, what is the liturgy of actually dropping the link? Um, hey, what's going on? Okay, and then people form friendships. So Neil Daedalus has many times talked about, like, oh, that's why he's here. That's what he's doing. um, Forming friendships. And I'm wondering, like, is it the friendships that are transformative, or do you have to be transformed to develop the friendships? Is it like a discursive process? Is it like a reciprocal process between, like, okay, so you drop the link and you have to drop the link to form the friendships? I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't think aloud like like everyone does on TLC. Um, Maybe it'll be like the video of me cooking chicken, which will just show up everywhere I show up. Um, is it about seeing myself in the space? Is it about seeing other people seeing me? And I've got this whole big thing. I've got this diagram with these axes and all this stuff. But I mean, and then we can outline it and we can talk about, like, okay, this is how this happens. But um, I don't know. I don't know. I'm specifically in conversation, really trying to get to the minutia of this, really being well, loving some of the content I've been seeing. I don't see nearly as much content as I'd like to, because I have a baby. So, I'm just beginning just by living it, I feel like I'm beginning to see why there are not, like, a whole lot of women. Like, I mean, there are a lot of women. I don't wanna minimize, but I've heard other people, PVK, say that there's not a lot of women around here, and, I've heard this 70-30 number a lot, and I've seen it in other publications. So I don't know how true it is, but it feels true because if I am online, I'm away from my baby. I'm either paying someone to take care of my baby, or my baby's napping, or I'm feeling this divided attention between this real life of like, oh, I'm home with my baby and I love my baby and I want to give him my full attention. And oh, I'm trying to work and talk to people outside the house and all that. And so I mean this could get into like mom guilt, or this could get into like who knows where. We could really is it the fact that yes, okay, so I agree with this, so, like, and I know there's this whole big thing about like the masculine and the feminine and all that. Is that Dawn? Um uh and so we can get into like the masculine and the feminine, or it's like male heavy. It's like, oh, there's a bunch of guys. And I know like a lot of men have jobs where oh, okay, this is good. Okay, so Brian of College Station says, I'd like to be able to work with my kids so that way they can monkey see, monkey do. I like the idea of this. I like this, like, so your kids could be kind of like, what's it called when like apprentices, like apprenticeship. Like, I I I love all this kind of like, I don't want to say like natural, but like this kind of more traditional way of thinking where it's like, yeah, like I feel like if you're around the kids, like we know that we learn through play, right? Like play is the best way to learn anything. And so like hey Dawn. So it's like, yeah, I figure that's how people learn to farm and blacksmith. Yeah, I totally feel that. And that's like everything, um, like cooking and cooking chicken, for example. My son watched me cook a chicken yesterday, roasted in the oven, and I make a good roast chicken. Thank you for asking. Um, my son observed that from his high chair, like that's a way of learning that his mirror neurons are firing. His whole body is learning how to cook a chicken by watching me cook a chicken. Um, and I feel like that's really important. And so when I'm with my kid, I don't want him to think, oh, we do screens all the time. Like, no, that's not very good for his development, I don't feel like. And so I wonder if like, okay, so like women are home with kids more often just because of the many structures of our society. Um, so yeah, there's where my train of thought is today. I'm thinking about the process of being in this community. The process is of clicking that link, joining a live stream, creating a live stream. Um, so um, in that spirit, I will see about potentially maybe dropping this link. Obviously, I don't remember how to do that because I never do this. But shoot, they've changed everything since I was last on here. So now people can watch me. So part of this process then will be learning the actual mechanical processes of dropping the link, right? That's part of it. Part of it's developing this persona of like, okay, so this is how I talk on YouTube, which might not be new for a lot of people. Maybe if you've been gaming a lot, maybe if you're on lots of Discord servers, maybe if you're streaming, like, okay, um, in those cases, you might not need to develop this persona. You might just need to figure out how to you might need to figure out, okay, so there's this invite button. That's not it. You might need to figure out how to apply this persona to a new space. Okay, so there's these mechanical concerns, right? But that's not getting to the transformation that PVK is talking about from being someone who's like, oh, I forget the word he used. I want to use the right words. I don't like putting words in people's mouths. I think the word he used is shaggy. So getting from someone who comes in like shaggy, and I've seen people like stream hopping, and it's like, I don't know, maybe like 4 in the morning, and oh, thank you, invite button. And I'm like, yeah, these people have been stream hopping forever. Um, of course they're shaggy. Oh, okay, all right, I'm copying this. I'm pasting this. Um, there you go. There you go. Come join my stream if you'd like to. I'd love to hear from anyone. Miss people. Yes, I did it. Now I know there's a way to like, there we go. Is that gonna, does that do something special so that people can see it? I don't know. Also, what happened to the clip feature? I like to clip things, and sometimes it disappears, which is totally normal. So these are some of my disjointed thoughts I'm sharing with you all. I did not come into this with like a real game plan other than to think about like, okay, what is the process? Like, how does this community come to be? Hey, Slack. Yes, I miss clipping too. And also, like, all these people that we've seen in real life. And then they, like, I've seen Slack at Northwestuary, right? And I know Slack is a cool person. I knew Slack was a cool person before Northwestuary, but now I don't know. I feel like I kind of know Slack. You guys play Wordle together? Like what? I'm pretty good at Wordle, according to my husband. Yep. Peace, Brian of College Station. Us and them, yes. Anyway, I don't know what the Wordle is today. My husband always starts with farts. Come join me, someone. Farts is not a good starting word, okay? I don't know what to tell you. Okay, so here's a question I have. Okay, as I'm talking on the screen about nothing and everything, I'm hearing myself talk about things that don't matter at all, like Wordle. And I just wonder, am I like, as an outsider, someone on the periphery, right? I've heard everybody around here say, I'm on the periphery, I don't belong, etc., etc. And I don't mean to belittle that, but now hearing myself say that, I'm wondering if I'm too far apart to really understand what's going on here. Like, as a lady, right? As a lady, as a researcher, and I'm sure it depends on who you ask, right? Like, so there's always this question of, do I belong? And as a sociologist, I'm not looking for belonging. I'm looking for some sort of reciprocal understanding, I think, that makes it clear that like I've got it. I can be an insider. I don't know. I catch myself writing about belonging. I catch myself writing like, okay, this is how we get to belonging. And I have a lot of ideas about that. About belonging, what that means, how we get there, etc. And when I hear PBK talk about this move from misfits to friends, or from shaggy to whatever, what does he say? He doesn't say belonging, but I read it kind of as belonging, right? This transformation, I feel like these transformation, and this is totally just me just sort of thinking out loud, but these transformations that we talk about from people who like don't belong, and I think that's part of the story. When people are able to transform like this from shaggy to friends, I mean, that's clearly a sign of belonging, I would argue. And I feel like, we could look at the psych studies and whatever. When PBK used the words more stable in this interview, more stable. And I think that talking about that like mental clarity, I think is important, because we're talking about guys and their this cliche of guys in their parents' basements playing, their mother's basement specifically, playing video games all day. Like, yeah, to have this sort of movement to psychological stability. And then when we talk about like, okay, so now there's this added layer of tech, and like, is digital technology enhancing our relationships or destroying them? TLC is just this weird sort of case. I think it's a weird case. I know that video game communities, sometimes you meet people in real life. I heard Steve in this interview talking about like, oh, I've met a couple of these online friend priests and they really helped me in a tough time in real life. So I think that's interesting. Um, and there's this move of being constantly connected, and there's a lot of theory I have about this. You know, I'm building the sociological theory. Story 5 tackles that question. Which question? Toy Story 5. Great. I have not seen Toy Story 5 yet. In theaters yet? I don't know. Somebody was telling me the other day that there was somebody who's surprising. Is it the who voices Buzz? That's my little anecdote, what I was thinking about Toy Story recently. Let's talk about marital disputes. No, I'm just kidding. My husband thinks farts are hilarious, and we have this thing we call the family funny book, where we record what goes on in our lives, the funny things, and like I want to say 90% of it is fart jokes, and we are weird. And now I guess it's out there on the internet how weird we are that we have a family funny book that is full of fart jokes, but we have some really good fart jokes. So I'll put that out there, okay? Um so yeah, I don't know. I don't know if anyone wants to join this conversation. I'm thinking about the processes of creating a live stream, joining a live stream. Um I'm not sharing fart jokes on the internet. I just um I'm just not. Um unless I have a really good one, which I don't. We'll just we'll leave it there. I don't think we're so desperate as to imagine what kind of fart jokes I have in the canon. But I was reading Elizabeth Oldfield had some really interesting boob humor on her Substack letter recently. And it was a really good Substack. She was talking about well, it hit me because she's like talking about new parents. And so I was like, okay, I'll read this one. And I felt like really seen because she was like talking about like, okay, she's got these new parents in her house share, which was really interesting how she every time I've heard her talk about it, I've thought this is really cool. Where she has this sort of communal living setup, kind of I think she compares it to like a monastery, which is really interesting. And so she was talking about that, and she's like, okay, there's new parents there and all the things she does for them. And that is really cool to me that like she was talking about like, oh, we sent them to bed. And I'm like, yes, that's what new parents need. Or she was like, shoot, what else did she say? I don't know. But there was boob humor in there. And I enjoy Elizabeth Oldfield. I think yeah, she's been around some, and that's been really good. Teo, I think, had a good conversation with her, like probably more than a year ago at this point. Or maybe Chad and Teo were on that. So yeah. Well, okay, so this stream has been mostly me trying to figure out the processes, and this is just me making a diagram because okay, so there's these big processes of transformation in this little corner of the internet. And then there are these smaller processes like coming out of the lurk, creating a live stream, joining someone else's live stream for the first time, developing this liturgy, which is, you know, it's individual and it's also communal. And then on the other side of my project, there's like all sorts of like sociological theory, which I am building. And so I'm drawing on people like Randall Collins. I'm also drawing on people like Zimmel, you might have heard of. People, and it's very interesting. A lot of sociologists say they feel like they're always on the periphery, never on the center. Um, they talk in this sort of same way that people on TLC talk. And so I'm asking myself, This is probably a very universal thing. People sort of having this feeling that they don't belong or whatever. And it's probably important for our society. And TLC has a lot of discourse on this about like, well, we have these hierarchies and flotillas, grim grizz, and there's these masculine ways of doing things and these feminine ways of doing things, and just all sorts of discourse on this. Ian McGilchrist, and there's so much out there, and so just thinking about what that means for my project, and I thought there's no better way to work particularly on understanding the process of creating a live stream and say this is like, okay, so the thing is, oftentimes it's the failure that proves the rule. So if I get on here and I have a failed live stream, that tells us something too about, okay, so how do we compare a failed live stream to a non-failed live stream or a successful live stream? And it's like, well, I've seen my friends on this live stream, so is it really failed? But so that on the one hand, right? On the other hand, like, is there a certain number of views? Is there a certain number of participants? Is there a certain number of joiners that makes a live stream successful? Like what? And maybe this idea that you can't fail is something that's uniquely successful to TLC. If we define success not in the number of contacts or the number of joiners or whatever, but in the quality of the relationship, as I've heard Neil Dedalus talk about. Maybe I've heard Chad talk about this a little bit. Who else have I heard talk about? Oh, I definitely have heard. I think PVK maybe talk about this a little bit, or in his language of showing up and continuing to show up. So it's kind of on my mind a little bit, but thinking about if it's not possible to fail, like, is that the juice that makes TLC something special? Like, because I think a lot of times we evaluate ourselves by these numerals. I can't talk today. But like, if the measure of success is just like, oh, I made this live stream, like I was here. I don't know. Like what? Like if there's no case for failure, like if you're just, yeah, I don't really know. Because like, okay, so like from a mental health perspective, like thinking about like Jonathan Haidt's book, his like newer one, The Anxious Generation, he's got all of this data about how Instagram is, and I've talked about this before on this channel, how Instagram is just really actively harmful for teen mental health. And I think, and I don't know what kind of data there is to back this up, so this is just me kind of riffing. Like, I think that it's pretty clear that part of the reason for that, the damage that can be caused to someone's mental health from like Instagram, it's pretty clear that that's because of the type of evaluation that's happening, and where there's like these rigid structures of evaluation that are developing and self-evaluation that are developing. And that's very easy to have here because like I'm looking at this thing on StreamYard and it's showing me like, okay, how long I've been talking. It says I've been talking for 27 minutes. I don't think that's accurate. It tells me exactly how many people are watching, what kind of engagement I have. And then there's all of these metrics throughout that continue to tell me what kind of engagement I have. So I'm wondering, TLC, I think being a part of TLC, maybe participating in this liturgy, having this liturgy of TLC as people continually talk about, I'm thinking maybe it's that liturgy that can insulate and protect people from this question, these self-doubt, this like looking at yourself, my God, hearing yourself talk on this platform. I'm sorry to all the Catholics out there if that's considered using the Lord's name in vain. I'll try to be conscientious of the things I say, but this looking at yourself, this self gaze that's happening as it's you and the screen and the reflexivity there. And then we also have this layer of like evaluation criteria because you have these metrics of like who's watching you and how many people and whatever. Hey, President Foxman, how goes it? Long time no see. I've missed seeing TLCers. So I'm just thinking about like, and it's really interesting to me that I'm seeing a lot of like thinking like from the mental health thing I was talking about. It seems, and from like PBK's whole thing about like, oh, kids in their basements or grown men in their mother's basements with Dorito dust on their fingers. You get depressed people, right, who might be drawn to this. And so then to like see your like seeing yourself, and then that's considered like low EE. So if I was talking about like Randall Collins, I would say like someone who's depressed, experiencing depression, like they've got low levels of emotional energy, and that's also connected to the status thing, like low levels of status. And like one of the symptoms of depression is like not like avoiding contact with other people, I would think. And so just this idea of this reflexivity too, like in this sort of low mental health space, like I think it's extra interesting that people would go through this trouble to be on the live stream. And I don't know if that's what Shaggy means. I don't know if becoming more stable could it be a product of just this self reflexivity happening first? Like when you're on a Zoom call, you're seeing yourself in the corner too. And then you're engaging with other people. Like, okay, so that's part of it. Participating in this liturgy, developing these friendships, that's part of it. I was promised that I could think out loud in this space. So thank you for indulging me as I am just really straight up thinking out loud at this point. I've got my outline of what I think kind of could be happening. I don't want it to sound like I just have an outline. Okay, this is layers and layers of thought, tons of research interviews, a baby, 6 months of having a baby, that is going into this. Half the reason I will sometimes do camless streams. Okay, I'm interested in this, President Foxman. You've got me here. Because I see, okay, on your channels, maybe it's not you. I'm thinking of people do these sort of streams where they're like just like playing a video game or something. Okay, I could kind of see like if maybe that's what like okay, let's play a video game, and then people still have this level of engagement. Or on Discord, I guess people talk without using their phone, so they have that liturgy, or they without using the camera, so they have that liturgy, they have that connection as well. I think that's an important point. Is that like, and that's part of what I've been finding. It's like, okay, so if you're on a live stream, you can get off at any point in time, especially post COVID. Like, and I say COVID because like it's really a turning point in our technology. It's really a turning point in our. Okay, this is important too. Okay, the idea is to emulate the campfire gaming couch experience. Okay, so this is something that you're doing intentionally. It sounds like that's really cool. That's really cool. Okay, that's part of the liturgy then, or that's maybe a subtype of the liturgy. I like that. Okay, so you're trying to work calls. Yeah, Slack. We're not turning on our phone for work or our camera for work calls. I'll say it right there. Unless I lose my job without it. Amen, Slack. In those cases, you aren't often looking at faces, and definitely not your own, says Foxman. Yeah, that's it. Okay. And this, I think, gets us back to that Ian McGilchrist masculine and feminine that I've just heard so many times in the TLC, and then this broader idea that I don't know if this is in that Mars and Venus book or what. Women are from Jupiter, men are from Mars, or whatever. This thinking that men do not like to make eye contact in conversations, whereas women, speak with their heads closest together. Maybe that's a Steven Pinker thing. I don't quote me on that. Um, but that's definitely something that's out there in the discourse, is that as being a very gendered thing. But now that we have this increasing discourse about like mental illness and autism and all that, like a part of me is kind of thinking, well, people with neurodivergent sort of situations, like they don't want to make eye contact. So just to emulate this, I love what President Foxman's doing here, where he's talking about um, campfire gaming experiences. Yeah, yeah, you can hang out. So just making these virtual, like this intentional liturgy, where you're making your virtual experience, your virtual transfer of emotional energy, quite a lot like your real life, in person life. And to me, that says, okay, so you do that, you have that experience. And this is a novel argument sociologically. I'm arguing that that carries over into the emotional energy that you have in your day-to-day life. So um, the whole crew sipping beverages while watching someone work on their car. Yeah, it's like that Tostito commercial where I think it's a Tostitos commercial. Same deal. One guy's eating Tostito, or you get the deal. What President Foxman said. Shoot, yeah. What I was thinking about was, so you have this gaming couch experience, or this campfire experience, or this Tostitos experience, and it's technically like in the privacy of wherever you do your streaming, but it has these real world implications, and that's where we see PVK's argument about these people started out shaggy, and now they're here. Now they have friends, and they've developed us. And sometimes people talk about developing these real life friendships, and oftentimes people talk about developing these lasting um, relationships with other people, where they call each other and they talk offline, and that's another transformation as well. So I really hope I'm quoting PVK right, because I've said his name and I've said what I thought he said many times. Um, I have it in front of me because I think the transcript is really important. And he said it many times before, but in this interview, I don't know, he just really a condensed form of um just talking about it, like, and giving Chad as the example of the liturgy, as he's explaining to Steve what it is that TLC is, and then how it's come to work. But as part of the liturgy of the TLC, people quote other people a lot. People have videos of other people a lot. I think that fits in with the liturgy to quote him like this. Okay, he's talking about going to Austin, something about Byzantine Catholics, Episcopalians. Okay, that's the wrong part of the interview. You get to see me read my notes. That's just a Noodle Lattes here. Hey, what's going on? I'm just talking about what I'm thinking about, maybe writing about. So still working on the dissertation, still coding my data. Okay, all right, here's the actual quote. Okay. Chad just had a baby about 8 to 9 months ago, and so she's sleeping, and he'll often just live stream, and he'll just pick up a guitar and he'll start strumming. They'll turn on StreamYard, and then some people will wander in, and they'll just have of course there may be 5 or 10 or 15 people watching who are commenting in, and they'll just have a conversation. It could be about what's happening with kids, or it could drift into much more serious questions, the likes of which we talked about today. And so it is a two-way conversation like this, or it just he's doing it and he's reading, he might just be sharing some things on his mind. But then all of these liturgies have developed in the last 8 years. So one of the liturgy is dropping the link. So when someone drops the link, that means anybody can come on, and then you're going to have a conversation because the channels are small. Okay, so here's the thing. Yeah, there's that, and then okay, do we have a lot? I would be so interested, and if anybody started out just like stream surfing, like I think maybe Casual Carter. Like I remember like a couple years ago when Lance was doing this all night thing, and this person Casual Carter came in. Like, do we have anything on the whereabouts of Casual Carter? Like, and I've seen other people like stream surfing over time and then just kind of landing in TLC. So there's that, and then there's of course the Peterson pipeline, the Peugeot pipeline, all these other things. But when he says anybody, I feel like this is the only time where someone says anybody and they really mean anybody. Hey, what's going on? I'm just thinking out loud today. Talking a lot about things like roasting chicken, dropping links, having a baby, etc., etc. So I would be interested if anyone wants to come talk. I guess I'm participating in the liturgy. Let's see. I can ban myself. That doesn't make sense. You shouldn't be able to ban yourself from your own channel. That just probably results in you getting locked out and makes you maybe look a little bit less good at technology than you actually are. I have a lot of opinions about these things. So there's that. I've kind of lost my train of thought, but I feel like President Foxman was really, we were really engaged there in a way that's important, talking about how we develop some of these liturgies, how it insulates us against some of the, like, maybe shame responses. Because I think it's important to talk about, like, okay, so like our emotional responses to how we're engaging is important. So, like, there's this guy, Thomas Schaff, who talks about emotions like, for example, shame and another time. Okay, so if we're experiencing certain emotions, like that's going to influence our behavior, maybe. And that's also going to influence how we reach other people, how we talk to them, how we engage with them, and the ability to sort of form another level of involvement and engagement and belonging. So a lot of times our emotions like shame could keep us from engaging with others. The internet, and not just the internet, not just digital tech, but specifically these YouTube channels and this liturgy, just to use this word that's been used quite a lot, this liturgy of how we engage in this little corner of the internet, especially the streaming portion, which I'm focused on. That can insulate us from, or maybe I don't want to use the word insulate. I don't know if that's backed by data, but it shifts the way that we process those emotions. It shifts the way that those emotions can interfere with our behavior. And so I think it's going to be really important to think about how that happens and what that means. So that's just me spitballing. Okay, but then, okay, all right, that's one part of my project. And so I really think the thing I'm going to focus on with this live streaming thing, you're not just live streaming, you're following a liturgy. And I think that's going to be very important. And President Foxman sort of set me straight here, that it's not just this liturgy that I'm doing right now, which I guess I am. Does that make me like a priest or something? I mean, I don't understand how it's going to fit with the lexicon. I don't know how far the metaphor carries. I would have a high level of emotional energy in the discourse, and I think I feel myself like, oh, I'm kind of bubbling up now because I'm talking and I'm live, and there's 9 people who may or may not be watching me, and I'm having this conversation too on the chat as well. Like, maybe it is build. Mark S is in the house. Hey, Mark S. Maybe it's building my EE. Maybe it's building me and moving me from this state of depression or anxiety or whatever, and bolstering me up through this connection with other people, through being seen and so forth. I could totally, and you know what? I hear PVK get extra preachy as he goes on and on throughout the liturgy. Very kind of low church, where a pastor kind of has to be like applauded off the stage. Um, uh, in some instances, now that might be ethnocentric, and maybe I shouldn't say that, but when you go to a really good Pentecostal service, or not even Pentecostal, but um, maybe some Baptists out in the country, you go to a service like that, and there's this engagement, and you went the songs, you go to all sorts of things, and there's a little bit of a need to give a lot of amens and hallelujahs and thank you Jesus again and again and again, with the rhythm and the entrainment and all that, and that gets you up there. It builds your EE. And so in this liturgy, this little corner of the internet, as we've done this live stream together, we're building that EE. We're building that community. We're building that communitas. And it's shaping our identities. And we're starting out shaggy, and we're getting more in terms of our identities. And I'm arguing, oh, well, that can change. Okay, that changes how we interact in real life. And so I want to connect it to this Jordan Peterson piece of go to church. So how you been, Mark S? It's nice to see you on the stream. But speaking of going to church, right? So I see this connection on TLC where it's like, oh, our religious identities have changed. And I wonder, is that because maybe the joint area of interest for all of us to stick around for a couple streams is, excuse me, maybe the joint area of interest is religion? Maybe we're all here because in some way or another, religion has let us down, betrayed us. Steve Skojak was talking a lot about like the ways in which dude, I'm not here to tell his story, but like he was part of a very conservative Catholic order that didn't treat him the way he needed to be treated. And that affected him in his youth. And he really said a lot of things that I've heard other people say. So I don't know. I would love to watch that whole interview. So this liturgy then seems transformative, not just for how we view the self, how people are sort of starting out shaggy and moving to a different sort of, moving to a non-shaggy state, developing friendships, but they're experiencing these transformations of not just of their religion, but where they're trying out different religions. Hi, Ups. Good to see you. I'm just thinking out loud. So we have this state where people are joining the liturgy, and then, or they might be lurking. They might be lurking in the glow of the liturgy. Either way. And of course, some people told me this is the Holy Spirit, right? So whatever I say is pointless. So that's fine. Two, I know that other people see this. There's many, many ways of seeing this. And so I want to think about this. What is it that's causing people to have all of these? Okay, Marcus, I've mostly been talking to myself. But I've been reflecting on this process of joining a live stream and on one or two of PVK's most recent conversations. But for my own work, I've been reflecting on like, okay, so I'm writing this, I'm making this outline, I'm really trying to solidify what do I think it is to join a live stream, and why do people do it, and hey, why do people do it? And so what I'm trying to do is, so I've gotten into, and President Foxman provided a really helpful comment, because I was thinking about like, oh, it's this reflexivity that might be really helpful. And President Foxman provided this really interesting comment about like, you don't always look at each other in order to be part of this liturgy. Sometimes you're doing things like streaming a video game or something, and you still get some of these benefits. And so I'm thinking about what is it that's transforming people? Because I was listening to a PVK comment where he was saying, something he said in his stream with Steve Skojic. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Truth be told, Steve Skojic. This really amazing interview. I really enjoyed that interview. Interview. I keep saying interview. I mean conversation. Excuse me. Conversation and rando conversation. Where he's talking about, he was telling him what the TLC is, and he said people start out shaggy, and he was really saying one of the many things that's been said about transformation, and people who come to this space are transformed, and I think that's true. And so I'm asking, how does that happen? And I think it's in part through this liturgy of live streaming, and that's just it. It's the liturgy, and there's people that set the example, like PVK has this conversation. There's Chad and his channel. So I feel like we could talk all day till I'm blue in the face about this, and I want to get it nailed down. I don't know. I want to understand what's happening. I want to get it into a nice little diagram, and that might be this might be bigger than any one diagram. But I was also sort of reflecting on, like, there's a lot of emotional energy in this space, and so people can come to it. It's more accessible to people, right? Because people can come to this space when they're not feeling their best, when they have a low level of emotional energy. And by participating in the space in whatever way, as lurkers, as regulars, as I had a couple other types that I was thinking about. By participating in this space in whatever way they want to or are able, they're generating something. And that's something which I'm following Randall Collins, and I'm calling it emotional energy. It actually carries over into their off-screen lives. And we see that by this impulse to go to church. And we also see this, I've seen this in a couple of examples, which I'm going to write about. So I think it's really important. Sociologically, there's nothing like this that says, okay, we can start with something online, and that's actually going to matter for what we do offline. Oh, okay, Ups, this is kind of beautiful here. It's like tolling the bell. Like, I don't know if you have like a church bell in mind, like ringing the church bells. But that's right. I guess something that I'm kind of looking past is the algorithm. So not only are we shaping our own trajectories, it's the algorithm bringing people first to live content, and also to, I assume there's something about funding and clicks, and longer content I think is favored in the algorithm. And so, and it's content that you're familiar with. So it's bringing sort of this principle of homophily, like attracts like. It's bringing people together who might already have common interests. So it's doing a lot of the work for us in that sense. So there's something being done for us, and then there's this liturgy that's taking place. But I mean, let's think about this also in terms of Upsis thing. So if you're totally offline, like, Stone Ages or something, not Stone Ages, but let's think about even 20 years ago. You'll be in a town and you'll be hearing, say, the church bells ring, and that's your clue. Like, you could go to the Methodist church, you could go to any church, the Baptist church, whatever. Except I'm not sure you'd hear too many church bells in some of these low church churches, but you'll be hearing the church bells. You can go anywhere. That's sort of a like attracts like. If you're higher income, you'll probably go to a higher church, and if you're lower income, that's probably an oversimplification. But just you, depending on your characteristic and your taste and whatever. Mark S is in the house. Thank you, Mark S. How are you doing, Mark?
Doing well. Good afternoon. I don't know where you are. It might be morning for you still.
I am on the I'm in Ohio, so yeah, afternoon.
Cool. Yeah, just enjoying your stream. Been listening for like 10 minutes. I probably won't stick around too long, but yeah, what you were just talking about, uh, like what is it about this live streaming? I've been thinking about that, and because it's fun, um, why did I? So I missed the last minute. Were you in the middle of a thought? I don't want to just start
No, I was
going
thinking
off there.
about I was just thinking with ups about church bells.
Um, I think there's something to that. I mean, I won't disagree and say it's not a liturgy because that's just a would be we'd be disagreeing on metaphors, which whatever, right? But I feel like it's more of the coffee hour before church than church for me, because at my church we have coffee like in between Bible class and then main service, and that is like that reminds me more of this because one thing I like about this whole thing is that, like last night, I actually did my first interview on my channel, and it was with this preacher, and it's kind of a niche topic or whatever, but it was like the thing about making a schedule, like, hey, I like talking to you. Do you want to talk at this time? Well, no, not this time, that time. And then you like get together, you finally agree on a time, and it's like, oh, I can't figure this technology out. And it's like, oh, and all this stuff. Or or like Ron Copperman, I've been telling him for months I wanted to interview him. And I've just been waiting for the perfect random time. And now I realize like it's been a long time. I just have to make a time and it sucks. But the thing I like about live streams is that it's not like anybody has to be here. Anybody can just show up and participate in the hive mind or come on stream or just listen. And I feel like it's one of those common spaces. I forget what it was. Somebody mentioned like the informal meeting space. That actually, oh yeah, I saw a YouTube short by some psychology professor or something, and he was saying there was a really big psychologist uh, like 50 years ago who wrote about informal meeting spaces. They did a study on college students. How do they make friends? So they studied these freshmen in college, like because they always end up making friends. How do they do it? And they said that most of the time it was just random um, coincidence, like these people go from this class to the next class at the same time. And next thing you know, they become best friends because they happen to be in the same place. And there's something about that. I hate to be like, oh, these days but it is kind of missing that informal meeting space you know, where you just everybody goes and you don't have to go and you don't have to make anybody go. And there's not a set time you have to be there and there's nothing you have to do. You just like go to see what's going on and just kind of be there. And I feel like that's what that is. This is for me, at least, among other things. But it's like, because I can't, if I had to make schedules to talk to all the people I like to talk to in the TLC, I probably wouldn't talk to them as often. So, yeah.
I love that, Mark. I think that's really important. It's like third places or whatever. Cause like, yeah, so like this is like the coffee hour, um, like at your church.
Yeah, sort of. it's like there's a coffee pot you can gather around. Everybody, like there's coffee pot and there's cake, and you just like talk about whatever. It's not like we have this amount of time to talk, and we're going to talk about this and that. Just kind of let it fly. And but there's lots of things about this live streaming that, like, another thing is that I think for me, like, for the past, I mean, I've had YouTube for 20 years. And so I've been I've been consuming content like nearly my entire adult life online. And so you just like listen to all this stuff and all these podcasts and interviews and all the just people talking, and you're like, you know what? Like, I could talk a little bit. And then, this is just a place where it's like, all right, I'm going to throw my hat in the ring and see if I can talk. And if I have a bit to say, and it's kind of fun, especially when I find somebody that I like talking to, that I could riff with a little bit, and on a subject which I'm interested in. Um, and then another aspect is that it's like when I was like 16 years old, I was like with my skater punk friends, like we just used to have great adventures, and we had like many jokes and inside things. And I was like, man, this is like funnier than any movie, the stuff we would get into. And it's almost like we were celebrities in our own right. And so it's like the internet, it's like Chad is kind of a celebrity, and Grim Grizz is like a celebrity, and or Ron Copperman, or um, but at the same time, like not at all, you know. But to us, they are, because we know them and we know their patterns and their vibes, and they are celebrities to us, you know. And so it's almost like, but then you break the fourth wall, and you're like, it's like it's like a reality show, but it's fiction, but it's real. And then you like you meet people in real life, and then you like go back and you see them online, and then you're like playing the character again, but you actually know them for real, and you're kind of being real, because like in life, I mean, we're just always playing characters anyway. So um I'm sure all this stuff has been said before. I'm not the most seasoned TLC person, and I don't even watch a ton of content, but I I definitely am glad it's here, you know.
Say more about that. What would you do if it wasn't here?
I'd probably just like I've been kind of on the periphery of a few online communities in my life, like groups of people that seem to like, it was on Facebook, it was on Twitter, just people who, it's often a follower of like a few powerful content creators, and then there's like, a bunch of people who like their stuff, and you kind of get to know them. Like, actually, I was like in a Facebook group in 2017 uh, around Jordan Peterson, and it was like a really big group, and he even would like talk about it. Um, and then I was like gonna, I'd follow people on Twitter and whatever. So I'd probably, if this weren't here, I'd probably just be in some, but this is more interactive, and for me, like the content, the subjects of like theology, ecclesiology, and spirituality are just so of my concern that it really fits me. Like, I really like these different points of view. Well, I don't like the different points of views, but I like exploring different points of views about these subjects. And then the fact that, I come on here, and it's, I remember I did a rando with Mark Parker a long time ago. He was like one of the only guys I wanted to actually meet. I didn't really care about the rest of it. But then like these people start reaching out to me like, "Hey, Mark, I'd like to talk to you sometime." I'm like, "What? Really? Like, that's weird." And then uh so I but if there was no internet or no social media, I would probably like know my next door neighbor better.
Sure. Did you follow up with
So,
those
yeah.
people who wanted to talk to you?
Not all of them,
But some of them.
because yeah, eventually, but I kept hanging around for it, because it's like, wait, who are you? Why do you want to talk to me? Like just some internet person. Like I just wanted to talk to Mark. I don't, but now yeah, I've actually made a few friends on here,
Yeah.
and yeah.
Um,
So,
what can I ask you, Mark? I was really curious about also Hezi. Um, I was wondering your first conversation with on your channel, you said? Can you tell me more about
yeah,
that? Did you have a good
yeah,
time?
sure.
Yeah.
I had a good time. It's a little nerve wracking because I'm not the best at that sort of thing. I never have done that before. And also, well, I enjoyed it. Basically, like I come from Churches of Christ, which is a particular religious tradition, and it's like not very well represented in the corner. Actually, Mark Parker was in it, but he's since left. And that's the reason I talked to him
Cool.
a year and a half ago. But so and then I'm a member of AA, and so Church of Christ very like biblicist and conservative, and I I more or less will affirm a lot of their doctrine, but at the same time, like AA is such a different type of philosophy, but I love both of them, and so I found this YouTube channel of actually a Church of Christ preacher who is in AA. And then on beyond that, I liked a lot of his content. His name is Jason Sage, Preacher Man Sage.
Okay.
And so I just like reached out to him and I asked him if I could talk with him.
Sure.
And it was pretty fun. He's a pretty interesting guy. But it's like it towards the end of the stream, everything he said I was clued into, but he started looking really uncomfortable towards the end of the interview, and I just kind of like was like, I don't know what's going on. But it was like visibly, and then he just was like, look, I've got Parkinson's and I need to take my medication and rest. And I was like, okay. So I don't know, I kind of felt bad about that, you know. Um,
Because you needed to rest, or
well, um, I don't know, just that he felt sick, you know.
yeah.
So and so I hope that he doesn't feel bad about that that happened on stream, that he had to like just quit it and take care of himself because on TV you want to like you want to have your publicity all buttoned up.
Yeah. Yeah, that is something weird that happens on YouTube. Like, I
What's
mean,
that?
that's so relatable, like
Something that
no.
happens on YouTube? What is that?
Oh, well, it's so relatable, like, you have to pee or whatever it is, this guy needed to rest, and it's like, what is the what do you do? Like, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, you can't like go to commercial. Well, you can go to commercial. People do branding.
Griswold Grimm has figured it out, I think, maybe but he's, like, the only one, like, I guess PVK plays Griswold Grimm's branding if he has to, like, go check on something. Sorry, that's
Right.
just what that made me think of, it sounds like you had
Yeah.
a really good conversation with this guy, though.
I think yeah, I did. I did. He was a good guy. Because religious traditions can be so, like the more devout you are, the more ready you are to kind if you have a lot of convictions, you know, and you
Yeah.
have a lot of like propositional beliefs, then for me, like sometimes I'm very cautious of people in my tradition. They have a lot of like particular convictions, and I don't. But he was a pretty good guy, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say.
Okay, here's what's on my mind, Mark. I don't know if this is cool. But like I remember what maybe 2 years or so ago when Chad was really doing all of his randos and you were like one of them and you were kind of unheard of before then. Is that right?
Yeah, I did a rando with Chad before I knew anybody. I think because I he invited me to an estuary that he called the Denim Dinner,
That's right.
and I met like Grim Grizz and CW and Laura and a few other people, and but I didn't see. I don't know if that rando that I did with Chad, if that was before or after that Denim Dinner, but it was around the same time.
Okay.
Chad really evangelized me into the TLC because I knew him in real life. So, because we would always like basically have estuaries anyway. He's
What do
like,
you
dude,
mean?
you gotta follow because there was a common space where recovery people go on Saturday to Denny's at 11 o'clock. A bunch of recovery people just go and get breakfast and hang out. And so I would always end up staying with Chad and we'd talk for super long about such things as you hear here. And so he would tell me about it, but then he'd be like, yeah, so it's this guy, Paul Vanderklay, who interviewed Jordan Peterson. And that really turned me off for a long time because even though Jordan Peterson was a fascinating guy in the first couple of years, like I felt that once he started just being a normal conservative talking head, I lost a lot of respect for him. Like they'd be like, "So, what do you think about the election?" And he'd be like, "Well, and it's like, dude, talk more about Carl Jung and stuff. Like, don't talk about, it's like pretty lame." But anyway, so yeah, Chad did a rando with me, and that's crazy if you remember that. Um, that was fun though. And I remember like Neil and McMo were in the chat, and I had no idea who they were. I was like, and now they're like my friends. Um, but so yeah, I did that, and then so I followed Chad's channel because he had some pretty neat like artistic stuff on his channel.
Yeah.
Um, so I followed him, and he was doing a rando with Mark Parker,
Oh yeah.
and at that time, it was like around that exact day, I was like going through this stuff with my church and my family and everything, and I had nobody that knew what I was talking about. Like I would talk to my sponsor in AA, and he would just be like, "That doesn't make any sense," like because it's such like deep denominational stuff. And then Mark Parker was like, "Yeah, I go to Church of Christ, but I also believe in Buddhism." And I was like, "Oh man, I got to talk to this guy because there's nobody else I've ever heard of that's like that." And so I like emailed him and talked to him, and then I kind of started getting more into TLC. Oh yeah, the
Yeah.
the origin stories, right?
Yeah, but I'm so curious because it seemed like that just seems so new. And then now I just see you. I don't know if this is fair, but I see you kind of like going full circle and like you interviewed someone else. You know what I mean? Like that seems like a big moment.
Wow. It was my first interview. I guess it was a big moment, even though that interview isn't very TLC. It's more of like a particular thing that I don't see many TLC people being interested in. It wasn't really like a personalist thing. It was more of specific issues that we were talking about. But but yeah, I actually am going to interview Ron Copperman this Sunday.
What time
Um,
should we all be there?
it's 6:30
Eastern time,
Central Time.
Central time.
So I was wondering if I should record it or do it live, but I don't know. I feel like we're probably going to do it live, so I'll just say 6:30, and there's going to be a particular topic which Ron is just going to tell me all his miracle stories. That's the plan. I don't want to hear about what kind of home he grew up in or any of the stuff. I just want to hear some miracles. I want to hear some about some angels, demons, some healings, some prophecies. I want the woo.
It's gonna be
And
great.
I hope so. You know, he
I've heard
promised.
about
He said there will be woo. So
there
we
will
got
be
it from
woo.
him. Yes, that's what he said.
That's amazing. Well, I hate to cut this off, but I gotta go relieve my sitters in just a few minutes. So I might have
No
to start.
problem.
I really enjoyed talking to you, Mark. I wish we got to see each other more.
Yeah, I'm glad you're back on. Thank you. Thanks for
Thank
having me.
you. Thank you for coming and telling me about your conversation. I want to check it out. What's your channel name?
Uh, just Mark S. I don't really have a channel name. I don't that I know of. Just you could probably just link it through my chat comment, maybe.
Okay. I'm gonna try
If
to
you
throw
type in, if you type in like Mark S. Because I talk about like Christianity and AA.
Okay.
So,
Okay. I'm gonna do that.
but
Bye.
I'm not really trying to have a big channel. I just want to make stuff that I want to do. You know. But
Yeah.
I'd be honored for a follow from you though. So
I didn't hear that. I'm sorry.
I would be honored to have a follow from you.
Okay, I'm gonna follow. I'm gonna find you. It's gonna take me a minute. I'm gonna find you when I find you.
Yep.
Sorry.
Yep.
Okay, but let's talk again soon.
Sounds good. I'm gonna cook some eggs here. So have a great day. Thank you.
You too. You too. And I really appreciate everyone's thoughts so far. And I'm headed out. Have a good one, everybody.